I'm Dr. Connie. I'm your host of Mind Your Health podcast. I share my unique perspective both as a practitioner and a patient battling autoimmune condition for over 25 years because I had to figure things out on my own, and my education in my practical approach as a patient allows me to truly integrate it so that you can be whole and the burden of sick care is no longer your own burden to carry. And this is what we help you with in this podcast. Hey, you guys. This is Dr. Connie. Here's our session 2 of our functional yoga medicine workshop. And I just want to make sure that you can hear me. If you guys are trickling in, please let me know where you're joining in from. I'll just give you guys a minute. I'm a little early. I'm super excited about today. Today's going to be a lot about exactly what we, how to apply everything that we're learning. So hoping that you can gain a lot out of that. If you're just coming in, please, teacher for 17 years. Hey, Jim. That's awesome. Love it. Durham, North Carolina. So if you're coming in, please let us know where you're joining us from and what background you have, whether you're a yoga teacher, a health coach, health professional, whatever it is. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love it if you can share some wins or takeaways that you had from the first session. Even if you are watching this as a replay, we would love to know. You can still leave us comments and we'd love it. So I just want to make sure all the sound test is good. I got the go ahead from my team. So I'm going to get started and I'm going to share what I've got in store for you here. So here we are. Remember, this is Foundations to Elevate Your Teaching. It's Anatomical Essentials for Empowered Yoga Instruction is all that is going to be about today. I'm going to be sharing so much information. I want you to buckle up and get ready because there's so much that I want to cover. A lot of it may seem kind of over the top of your head, but I'm all about really bringing the science, so that scientific background and the backbone for you to have so that you can better explain as you go explore into the mysticism, the whole, more of the, I say, esoteric teachings of yoga so that you can be anchored in science to speak, because like I always said, science has the ability to unite people on the same grounds. And a lot of the times, so religious or spiritual work always polarizes people. So that's what I've seen. And I want you to have a good science backbone in order for you to explain what you're doing. Remember, this is a 3-part functional yoga medicine live workshop, which is designed to help you to discover the intricacies of human body movement and holistic medicine so that you can tailor your teachings to suit just about any student that walks in to your class. Remember, I've been in the yoga world for a long time now, and the major problem I see with yoga teachers is their struggle with imposter syndrome. Went through that too, I myself, which results from feeling like we just don't know enough. And this is especially true when it comes to their understanding of anatomy and how the body is designed to move. Remember, you guys, all of us as a collective, we're all struggling with worthiness at the core, and it seems to be a natural cycle to fall prey to the imposter syndrome. And imposter syndrome causes us to lack confidence, and it diminishes your ability to impact your students on a deeper level. And how most teachers cope is to focus on teaching pardon my French, a kick-ass class which often focuses more on the poses and sequences so that they can hide behind the teaching rather than creating space for each student to flourish and reap the benefits of this profound practice. So, as I shared in the first training, I have training in psychology, nutrition, physical therapy, yoga, Pilates, and functional medicine really at the highest levels. I sought out the best of the best. Being an immigrant and watching my parents struggle in a new country, I wanted to do everything I can to please them, and school was one way that I could. And this really began my people pleasing tendencies, which really backfired on me. And yoga mat helped me to realize all of this. But having learned the practical skills from an early age, being forced to adopt a new culture and language, I struggled with worthiness at the core as well. While I excelled in school, I realized that though theoretical understanding of a subject hardly ever translates to impact. And having experienced the medical system firsthand, both as a clinician and a patient, I realized just how ineffective and inefficient the medical system was. And rather than integrating the expertise into a functional skill to actually make a difference, as clinicians, we were pressured to focus on the billables and optimizing the bottom line and documentation as required by the third-party payers that took my attention away from the patients that I was serving. And this really never did make sense to me. As for the hierarchy and the bureaucratic ways of the system, the medical system, it makes everything so complicated, ineffective, and inefficient. And this led to my own personal frustration and burnout, and I branched out on my own in 2006 to establish a new way, and I've never looked back. Hang on, so before I make a mistake here, I'm going to go back to my slide. Here we go. So if you're a yoga teacher or an aspiring yoga teacher and you want to learn how to make a bigger impact using the practice of yoga and stand out from other teachers so that you can build your career doing what you love, all while making an income that can support your life and livelihood, you're in the right place. As I shared with you in the first training, I will challenge your very identity and limiting beliefs from who you think you are to who you truly are. And everything I'm saying is going to require you to step into who you truly are. You're going to discover and learn how integrating foundational principles of anatomy, body mechanics, and holistic medicine into your yoga teaching will allow you to provide more value, create more impact, and make more money as a result. And there is nothing wrong with wanting the best for yourself. Just a little housekeeping notes as a reminder. Today, we're on part 2 of this 3-part functional yoga medicine workshop series. As a reminder, all sessions are recorded and will be uploaded to our replay page after the live training. You will receive a link to the replay in your email. The recordings will only be available until August 31st, 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, to be exact. So if you're not able to join the live sessions and you're watching the replays, make sure you get caught up before the recordings go away. I shared some key nuggets applicable immediately for you to walk away and become your best. We also have workbooks to go along with the 3 trainings, which you can use to take notes with and help you to apply all the concepts you'll be learning. And as you watch the trainings, you'll want to follow along in your workbook because this is where you apply the lessons to receive the most benefit from this experience. Remember, I'm not here to share knowledge because knowledge is not power, only applied knowledge is. It's all about the integration of everything that you are learning here today, as well as session 1, as well as session 3 to come in on Thursday. And to get the most out of this training, I also encourage you to do the homework after each session because it allows you to take action, inspired action. And action is what moves you toward the change and the success. Lastly, please ask questions that you have in the chat. I will address them throughout the training, and my team, Leslie and Fersha, are also here in the chat to assist you if you need. So here we go. Let's recap part 1 of the 3-part training. Last week, Thursday, We talked about the potential for yoga teachers to make a huge impact. That I discussed how people are flocking to yoga studios for more than just a workout. Whether they know it or not, people are looking for relief from pain, to nurture their injuries, to improve their mobility limitations, gut issues, brain fog, manage their stress, and weight gain issues and chronic illnesses. Okay? What's possible when you have proper knowledge and training to help these people is improve student safety and experience. You can stand out in a saturated market, create a lucrative career doing what you love, and most importantly, make greater impact and reach, leading to personal and professional fulfillment and growth. And I believe that's really why you're all here today. The thing, though, you need to make these possibilities into the reality is integrative application, which is a holistic approach to yoga that unifies the mind, body, emotions, and spirit, fostering a balanced connection between these essential aspects of the collective human experience and health so that they, your students, as well as you, can flourish in your lives. So what are the benefits of integrating application as a yoga teacher? Well, they are a lot. But number one is holistic understanding. So integrative application offers a holistic, the bigger picture understanding of your body mechanics and anatomy, addressing symptoms and deeper issues at the root cause, which is completely overlooked by the medical system. So you get to fill in that gap for them. Second is personalized instruction. It enables you to make tailored teaching possible, helping your students adapt to various bodies, abilities, and needs that they need, which will help your students to recover and heal their body, mind, and soul. Number three is injury prevention. Focus on correct alignment and understanding of contraindications, reducing the risk of injuries as there are many yoga injuries out there. And I share the stats in training number one. And finally, you get optimized health that your clients are looking to achieve through yoga. And there's an unspoken expectation from yoga, which mostly is healing, stress management, weight loss is big, improving flexibility, and then many are there to get rid of pain. But most don't really understand the physiology behind the benefits when we do things without understanding the deep why, we lose sight of the goal. So please refer to the logical level one or logical level I discussed in training number one. So what are the three major things that contribute to imposter syndrome in yoga teachers? Well, I discussed this. And number one is lack of anatomical knowledge. So hold on. I think I have a question. I've been just informed by my team. Leanne asks, is there a way to submit participation in this workshop for CEUs through Yoga Alliance? I think that's a great question. I'm going to see if I can. So what I'd have to do is, as a school, apply this little training with the curriculum to Yoga Alliance to see if we can make this a continuing education. And please stay tuned for that. And for everybody who are here who's certified through Yoga Alliance, I will have Leslie on my team get back with you on that. So please keep that. And then my team knows to keep track of this. So three major things that contribute to imposter syndrome in yoga teachers is lack of anatomical knowledge and understanding of body mechanics in yoga teacher training curriculums, which we're going to dive deep into today, which is part 2. And then it's fragmentation and lack of application in both conventional and holistic medicine and wellness, which we will talk extensively about bridging that gap on Thursday in part 3. We know how beneficial yoga is, But not only is it not eloquently explained to our students, but we end up perpetually addressing the surface level, which is the striking poses on the mats, right? And people flock to yoga classes expecting the physical benefit without understanding the real power and the impact of this practice. And most yoga teachers provide what is expected of them. But the truth is that for many, it's just a temporary behavior that they are checking off when in fact, there's so much more under the surface when practicing yoga. And this is what I want you to provide, the holistic experience that leads to deeper transformation. Lastly, it's your mindset and beliefs that are stumping your growth and opportunity, which we talked about in part 1. The beliefs that you hold about your capabilities and about the yoga profession in general is what stumps you. Because most of us that are yoga teachers assume that the best way to earn a living is to have a side job or to teach more classes or to do privates to add to your time, exchange of time for money without considering bigger opportunities you can tap into to create a career that you'll all love. And that's to leverage your time, okay? So I gave you homework to identify which type of yoga teacher you are. Okay, there were 4 types that I gave you. Number 1 is flawless teacher. Second is a hobbyist. Number 3 is the employee. And then finally, the integrative yoga teacher. Just comment in the chat below to let me know what your results were, right? Because most teachers I've met and worked with fall under the hobbyist or the employee. But with the information you'll learn in our training, I want to help you to elevate yourself into being the integrative yoga teacher that you can be. So let's talk about the recap in part one of this 3-part training that we discussed. We discussed Holistic Health 101, understanding how the body is designed to work as a whole being. And if you didn't go watch the part 1, I want you to watch it because every session builds on the other. Number 1 is we went over in extensive or in detail the somatic versus autonomic nervous system. We also tied in the relationship between movement and nutrition. And then we also discussed nervous system regulation and how it affects body functions. And then we talked about chakras, hormones, and its respective symptoms. Be sure to go back and watch part 1 if you haven't done so yet. Okay? Today is all about movement. Understand and learn to apply basic foundations of anatomy and body mechanics that you can apply in your teaching right away so that you can create immediate results for your students. So I want you to think movement, right? Muscles and joints, optimal alignment, variability, effort and load, mindfulness, efficient transitions, nurturing, and tailoring. Okay? Today, you're going to walk away from this training with an easy to implement assessment using Survey A, all the yoga poses that you already know so well, to determine areas in which your students might have limitations in different body parts and what to do about them. And then I'm going to take you through 7 pillars of functional yoga medicine. It's a complete system you can use to plug and play to keep your practice safe, as well as to teach your students so that they know they are practicing with proper foundation, alignment, and activation in every single pose. And I will show you how you can apply these pillars in 2 specific poses, okay? So let's talk before we go into diving into the content. You might be asking, well, this is all good, but the yoga market is too saturated. Well, this is what I want you to challenge. This depends really on your perception and growth or lack mindset, because yoga as we know it today is over $100 billion, not million, $100 billion industry. So there's more than enough to go around. Not only that, it's a growing field. We need to challenge the limiting beliefs we unknowingly hold so that we can blast through them and set ourselves apart. Key being setting yourself apart. Remember how we talked about how your identity and beliefs determine your results in session 1? Well, if you believe there's too much competition and you're never going to be successful because of it, that's exactly what you're going to create and validate for yourselves. Or you can see growing yoga industry as more of opportunity for you to become successful by setting yourself apart and investing the time to learn more so that you can do more with this practice. But the choice ultimately is yours. However, it's still important for you to differentiate yourself and stand out, because at the end of the day, you want to zig when others are zagging, okay? The concepts you learn in this training will absolutely help you to do exactly that. There's a dime a dozen yoga teachers out there, but not all of them are making an impact. They do what they're taught over and over again, doing what's expected. In fact, some are actually causing more harm than good. Be the one that creates impact and changes the world and the lives that you serve, doing exactly what you love. But I want to tell you that you need to commit to the long game. And I know that if you're here listening to me right now, you know that yoga can change the world, one person at a time. So you might be thinking also, I have to have a degree or a background in health and medicine in order to apply these concepts with my students, and I just don't have that. Well, I just want to challenge you by saying there are many experts in various fields who didn't have formal degrees but are self-taught. It's their willingness and their hold up to their own vision to change the world, and they did just that. Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, and Mark Zuckerberg all dropped out of college and achieved immense success. And I actually think it's a good thing if you didn't have extensive background in health, because healthcare is so specialized and focuses on microscopic view of how things are supposed to be, as opposed to learning the telescopic big picture view of the outcome. I've had to do a lot of deconditioning of the conventional medical system to come to be where I am. And you can save that time if you don't have formal education. And in the grand scheme of building a career, a degree is just a small part of the puzzle. It's continuous learning, adaptability, and application of knowledge that truly matters, okay? The third thing you might be thinking is it's hard to make yoga teaching into a full-time, lucrative career. Well, there are numerous yoga teachers who have successfully turned their passion into full-time, lucrative career. They have built their brand, diversified their income streams, and leveraged the power of online platforms and their skills to reach a global audience. In the context of a lifetime, a few years of effort and dedication to build a successful and dream yoga teaching career is a small investment, and the rewards, both financial and personal, can last a lifetime. When you're able to integrate and apply different modalities into one single system, you can start to offer more specialized workshops, wellness programs above and beyond yoga, consultations, and demand higher fees than traditional classes or even privates or health coaching. This is exactly what I teach my students in my functional yoga medicine certification program, because we dive deep into the concepts that actually integrate psychology, nutrition, physical therapy, yoga, and functional medicine so that you can have a strong backbone to not only build your career, but to transform lives. And one thing I know for sure is that there are many desperate people for seeking integrative yoga practitioners to help them to bridge the gap between their pain to their inner power to heal. Okay? So I want you to keep that in mind. And here's the importance of knowing the anatomy. Understanding anatomy in yoga for several reasons. First, it helps you to perform poses, reducing the risk of injury. Second, it allows you to modify poses to suit your unique body structure and flexibility. Lastly, it provides you with a deeper understanding of how your body works, allowing you to develop a more mindful and connected yoga practice. So let's dive into the acronym. Here we come to muscles and joints for M. Understand how muscles contract and relax to create movement at the joints. Because remember, human body movement starts with the contraction and relaxation of muscles that control movement of joints. Each joint in the body, like the knee or the elbow, acts as a pivot point where two or more bones meet. Muscles then attach to bones via tendons, and when a muscle contracts, it pulls on the bone, creating the movement at the joint. In yoga, understanding which muscles are being used and how they're influencing the joint space is crucial for performing poses safely and effectively. O in movement stands for optimal alignment. Practice proper alignment in yoga poses to prevent injuries and increase effectiveness. Here's something I'll mention. If you keep practicing without body awareness and optimal alignment, you can cause inflammation in a small part of your body, say the shoulder joint. What I know from physical therapy is that segmental pain right there at the shoulder can really affect the whole limb, which affects the shoulder, to the segmental, the whole arm, and then it can be systemic inflammation. And that's how diseases progress, okay? So proper alignment in yoga poses is crucial for avoiding injuries and ensuring a safe and effective stretching and strengthening of muscles. And alignment refers to the optimal positioning of the joints and the body in a particular pose to avoid inflammation. It takes into account the individual's unique body structure, flexibility, as well as strength. Knowing the anatomy of the joints helps yoga practitioners and teachers to tailor yoga poses to their own or their students' bodies, improving and enhancing safety and effectiveness. V in movement stands for variability. Your ability to recognize that individual differences in body structure, being male or female, smaller pelvis to a wider hip, structure, flexibility, and strength, more muscles for males than women, require modifications in certain yoga poses. Not modification, it takes some consideration to make sure that we create strength and stability in the areas of the body that we know that we have some challenges. E in movement stands for effort and load. This is a lever system, which will be discussed later more in detail in this training, so stay tuned. It's super important because the human body uses lever systems to increase the efficiency of movement. And a lever consists of three components: a fulcrum, which is the pivot point, a load, which is the resistance, and an effort, which is the force applied. And the bones act as levers, and the joints as fulcrums, and the muscles provide the effort to move the load. In yoga, understanding lever systems can help you to understand how to generate force efficiently and how to modify poses to reduce strain on your joints. Next, we come to M in movement, cultivate mindfulness, which is to cultivate mindful yoga practice by paying attention to the breath and the sensations of your muscles, then alignment. Understanding how the body moves and functions can enhance mind-body connection in yoga. And by paying attention to the subtle sensations of muscles, joints, and alignment, you can cultivate a greater sense of awareness and mindfulness, both on and off the mat. E in movement stands for efficient transitions. Learning to transition smoothly between poses by coordinating multiple muscle groups and joints in dynamic movements. Dynamic movements are movements that involve momentum, speed, and coordination, which all require neurological input. These types of movements require synchronizations of various muscle groups and joints working together in harmony. In yoga, seen in sequences like sun salutations, where you can transition between poses fluidly and beautifully. Understanding dynamic movement is important in smooth transitions between poses for cultivating balance and stability. Next, we come to nurturing. Nurturing your body with proper food and hydration to fuel its movement is also important. This is where the nutrition comes in, right? Lastly, tailoring. Tailor the yoga practice to the individual needs by using props, making modifications, smart adjustments, and focusing on specific goals and intentions with your students is huge. So what are the 3 important anatomical foundations? Well, number 1 is to master the kinetic chain, okay? The kinetic chain is a concept that describes how different parts of the body are interconnected and how they work together to produce a synchronous movement. For example, hips work with pelvis and knees, shoulders work with elbow and ribs. In simple terms, though, the kinetic chain refers to the idea that body's parts are interconnected, and movements in one area can affect the other areas. And this concept is essential in yoga and other physical activities, as it highlights the importance of proper alignment, body awareness, and balanced muscle development to avoid compensation and ensure smooth and efficient movement. Next, we come to open chain versus closed chain. It's an important concept to demonstrate, to differentiate the two, because we do this a lot in yoga. The distal end, the open chain is when the distal end of a limb, such as the hand or the foot, is not fixed or stabilized and is free to move in space. Here you have Salabhasana on the left as open chain demonstration. These movements typically involve isolated joint movement, and the movement of one joint is not dependent on the movement on another. Okay? Second is closed chain, like wheel pose, the exact opposite of Salabhasana. Closed chain exercises are movements where the distal end of the working limb, the part of the limb furthest from the body, in this case is hands and your feet, that are grounded on the floor. And it's particularly important to be mindful of the alignment of your body, right? From the ankle to, and then you want to pay attention to the spine, the shoulder, elbow, down to the hand. You look at that as one whole system where the distal end of a limb is fixed or stabilized and the body moves over that fixed point. And these movements often involve multiple joints and muscle groups working together to produce desired motion. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and play this video so you can see the closed and open kinetic chains, and let this be the explanation to clarify a little bit further. So this is closed chain right here on the left, where the skeleton is in the squats, and then open kinetic chain is same quads, is just extending with the foot not stabilized by the floor is what we mean. So think boat and downward dog. Downward dog is hands and feet planted, pushing the floor away with both the hands as well as the heels or the feet. And then boat is just balancing on your sit bones with your hands and your legs in open space. So the stabilization point is 1 point. It's just flipped upside down, just like wheel and the Salabhasana that you just saw. Okay. Number 2 of anatomical foundation is to explore synergistic movements. So synergistic movement refers to the coordinated action of multiple muscles working together to achieve specific movement or maintain a particular posture. In a synergistic movement, one muscle acts as a primary mover, which is called the agonist. You don't have to remember this. And another muscle opposes the action, which is called antagonists. And other muscles that assist in the movement and stabilize the joints involved are the synergists. Then they work collectively together. So in simpler terms, synergistic movement is like a team effort, while different muscles contribute to achieving a common goal. Okay? For example, when you lift a heavy object, your biceps, the agonist, contract and bend the elbow. Simultaneously, the other muscles in your arm and shoulder, synergists, assist the lifting motion, while muscles in your core and your back stabilize the body. In yoga, synergistic movement is essential for maintaining proper alignment, balance, and stability in various poses. And by understanding how muscles work together cohesively, practitioners like you can develop more efficient, effective movement patterns, leading to a safer and more enjoyable yoga practice. Okay? So this is a video of the anatomical foundation, specifically the synergistic movement. So I'm going to let this video speak. Perfect. So think about Surya Namaskar example in the transition from Chaturanga Dandasana to Urdhva Mukha Svanasana, upward facing dog. Several muscles together to achieve the motion. Your chest and shoulder muscles, the pectoralis and deltoids, are the primary movers, while the triceps and the serratus anterior muscles work as synergists, assisting the movement. In the same transition from chaturanga upward facing dog, your chest and shoulder muscles, the agonists, contract to lift your upper body, while simultaneously your your upper back muscles, the antagonists, like the trapezius and rhomboids, relax to allow the motion. This coordinated action of agonist and antagonist muscles allow for smooth, controlled movement. And next, we're going to go right into the lever systems and biomechanics. So I want you to understand this concept in physics, right? Because our body's lever system, okay? So lever arm in biomechanics, okay, is the distance between the axis of rotation, the fulcrum, and the pivot point where the force is applied, or it's a key component in the lever system that enables the fluid movement in the body. And biomechanics really is the study of mechanical principles of living organisms, particularly the forces and movement produced by the muscles and gravity on the skeletal system. And in the context of the human body, it examines how muscles, bones, tendons, and ligaments work together to produce the movement. So let's go over the video. I have a video so that you can understand the... Okay, just sorry. I was just being taught or recommended not to actually about this. I'm going to go ahead and play so that you guys can understand. Okay, just here. So here's the arm in our body, and the whole body is a lever arm. There's the fulcrum, there's the load, and then there's the effort, right? And I want you to understand the whole body works like this. And I want you to understand always that if you understand the lever system to balance the weight and generate the necessary force, the bones and joints, they work together to provide the fulcrum, the lever system. Okay. The whole collective skeletal muscles, bones, and the body with the input coming from your nervous system is really what I want you to appreciate. And there we get into the different lever systems, and there's differences like in the cervical spine as well as the shoulders and then the elbows. Anywhere there is a joint, we have a fulcrum system. There's the first and second class levers, which you don't have to know about, but all I want you to understand is that it exists. Here in this case, there's a heel joint, the effort, the load, and the fulcrum all in the heel joint movement when you go up on your toes, as well as everything else in the body, even hinging from the hips as well. Here it's showing the elbow with the book in hand, the load and the effort forced by the muscle itself, and then the fulcrum becomes the joint itself. So understanding how lever system work in yoga can help practitioners like you improve your alignment, balance, and strength in various poses. Okay. So now we're going to address some compensatory movement patterns. I'm going to stop the presentation. I'm going to show you moving my chair, and I have a yoga mat set up behind me using Surya Namaskar. I'm going to show you exactly the common compensations that we go through in each of the poses. Okay. So let's go through and break down the Surya Namaskars. So here we go. So I'm going to stand here, and I want you to understand that anatomical neutral is standing in mountain pose. Mountain pose, you guys, is where you can see the dysfunctions right from the get-go. When they stand, a lot of patients might be standing this in mountain pose, right? Look how hunched back I am. My head is forward, forward shoulders. So what I usually cue in class to start, I emphasize that mountain pose is an active pose, right? So I have them look down, starting with the bottom, the feet, kinetic chain up from the ankle, the feet all the way up to the crown of my head. So having said that, I want their heel toe to be together because that enhances balance and proprioception, okay? So I want their heel toe together, and that tells me if they can stand with the smaller base of support. As we go into the functional yoga medicine foundations, I'll go over what that means. Support is important because I've narrowed the base of support by pulling my heel toe together, and I want to know if they can stand. And then I say, lift the toes up from the floor, and that activates the inner arches of their feet. So now they're activating the bottom of their feet. And then I have them bend their knees and then push the floor away as they extend the knees back, not locking out their knees. And then I say, tuck your tailbone slightly under. That somehow stops the gripping in with their gluteus and then activates their lower abdominals. And then I say rib cages down and in, shoulders down and back, sitting or standing nice and tall, drawing the shoulders down, chin up slightly, staying nice and tall. So when you look down, the plumb line between the ear, shoulder, hip, knee, and the ankle, they're all in one line. And that creates a nice active stand. So then when we go through Surya Namaskar A, I have the clients either go forward or to the side, whichever one, right? To the side, if you go inhale up into upward worship or go forward this way, I'm assessing their shoulder mobility. Are they getting over here? If they're stuck here, they're not gonna be able to go further than this. So the arm bicep won't go past the shoulders. They can't get this, so they're gonna overcompensate from their low back and take it back this way. It wasn't my shoulder so much, I'm getting the motion from my low back, which tells me a lot about weakness here, dysfunctional patterns, overcompensation. So here though, in this, so upward worship here, that tells me a lot about the shoulder stability, the rib and scapula, and then glenohumeral joint between the scapula and the humerus so that I can see what their posture is. And then it also is very evident where they are in their headspace and how they are positioned. So I'm making note of all of this as they go through. So we've done the mountain pose, we assessed here, and then we went here. Next is forward fold. So then when they forward fold, if they're stuck here, as they go, they're gonna be here, like in a posterior tilt. So that tells me either A, they're tight in their hamstring, or their fascial strain is in their low back. They can't go forward. So what I have them then do is I start to think about the exercises that I can send them home with. I have them bend their knees to free up their pelvis and then reach down so that they can keep a neutral spine in their low back. That's how I assess. Ooh, and then give them some strengthening as well as stretching exercises for their hamstrings, as well as stretching exercises for their low back to be able to facilitate this anterior tilt to get that mobility in their hip. Okay, so that's the forward fold. And then I extend back, inhale, lift, right? And then I look at their ability to extend their thoracic spine and create space between their pelvis and their rib cage. So that tells me, and then that tells me if that's locked up, I know that they're gonna have trouble breathing. And then from there I say, lower their hands, step the right foot back, left foot back, and I assess where they are here. Most of them are here just hanging on their bones, sinking down. Oh my gosh, right? So then that tells me weak core, as well as weak back muscles and no organization. So this is what I teach them. And then if I see this, I immediately say lower their knees because I know they can't go into chaturanga. And even in chaturanga, when they go, elbows are out and they're just kind of collapsing down, then I say, nope, lower the knees, lift the knees up, go down slowly, and then it may not even be 90 degrees. The important thing for me in chaturanga is to keep the elbows or the biceps grazing the side of your ribs. And then unless you can go down safely like that, I say you don't even go down that much. You just go slightly, tuck your toes, and then lift up, creating a lot of core engagement, sink back into child's pose, right? And then I see their pattern, and then lastly, we come to downward dog. Are they stepping their feet forward, or are they walking their hands back? Because the true downward dog is from plank, right, to shift back into downward dog without stepping up, or hands coming forward and back. It's an exact triangle. This is where the heels might lift, and then they might be here, and then their downward dog might be here. Whatever it is, I start to look at the back chain, posterior chain, as well as the front chain. I check their rib cage. I check their lumbar fascia to see if they're rounded, right? Rounded looks like this. And then I sink. And then this also affects your shoulder range of motion. Can you really go down like triangle, looking down towards your belly? There's a slight tilt anterior or forward of your pelvis where the tailbone is going straight up. Knees might have to bend to take the tailbone straight up, pushing the floor away actively. So to properly engage the core, and then can they find their breath? And the way I teach is that I make them engage the downward dog. And if you come to my classes are really hard because I make you really pay attention to the activation of the proper muscles. So from here, I say exhale big and bend your knees a lot. And can they step it all the way forward in one fell swoop? Or do they have so much weakness that they can pick up the foot and then they end up like stepping forward like so slow, and then it's the vinyasa classes where they can't even put their foot, so they're way back here, so all their stance becomes really short. The knee, shift onto their hands, place that foot down, right? And then bring the left foot forward. So these are all things that you can assess and check throughout your class to make sure that you have everything, you checked everything. So just from Surrey A, you've now checked the shoulder, the neck, the low back, the hamstrings, core strength, as well as ankle range of motion. I forgot to mention the ankle in plank because it's your ability to stand on your toes because you have to be high up on your toes in that way. So Surrey A provides me with a lot of knowledge for me to really understand the limitations, right? So going back to the mountain pose, the solution is to encourage students to lift their chest, draw their shoulder blades down and together, and align their ears over the shoulders, strengthening the upper body and neck extensors to help improve the posture. And then in upward worship, right, Urdhva Hastasana, It's limited shoulder mobility leading to overarching of the lower back. So we encourage students to engage their core, avoid excessive lumbar extension, work on shoulder mobility exercises and thoracic spine extensions for improved overhead arm reach. And then standing forward fold, Uttanasana, is tight hamstrings or posterior pelvic tilt, causing rounding of the spine. We suggest a slight bend in the knees to alleviate tension in the hamstrings to promote a more neutral spine. Regular hamstrings and low back stretching, as well as strengthening of the backside of the body to improve that flexibility. And then half forward fold, Ardha Uttanasana, the tightness of the low back leading to difficulty in extending the spine, like I said. We encourage students to hinge at the hips, maintain a neutral spine, and extend their chest forward, practicing hip, hinging, and thoracic extension exercises. And then again, plank, weak core muscles leading to sagging of the low back or hip. And then solution is to cue students to engage their core, round the area between their quads, right? To really strengthen the core, and then giving them core strengthening exercises. And then there's the half plank. That's defying negative gravity. That takes a lot of shoulder stability to do the half plank chaturanga. And weak shoulders is number one thing that I see. And the solution to that is to encourage students to modify by dropping their knees and not going all the way down and really pushing the floor away while grazing the elbows right by their sides. So I just was told that somebody had a question. So Neil asks, can you clarify the role of the myofascial system in assessing for integrity of lever, arm, and body mechanics? Neil, that's such a great question. So here's what I know about myofascial tension. Myofascial tension. So myofascia, it's a fascial tissue that sort of connects your whole body, front to back, top to bottom, right? So I know that, like, for example, the sutures in your head up here, like in your skull, encasing your brain, if you have a tendency to clench your jaw, activating your temporal bones or temporal muscles, as well as clenching your TMJ, that can cause so much tension in the myofascia to create a posterior pelvic tilt, and that can play into the low back affecting the fascial tissue so much that it can affect your seemingly hamstring restrictions. Myofascial tissue is very prone to trauma as well as emotional and stressors. We're very sensitive to it. If you have eaten chicken before, when you try to peel the chicken skin off of the chicken flesh, there's a fascial tissue. It's like spider web. They're finding so much about this, this fascial connection to the whole body, because that fascia encases every organ in our body. So, and it's very subject to a lot of stress, emotional stress and mental stress, and it can be very jagged, causing a lot of scar tissue. A lot of us have a little bit of, not a little bit, but a lot of us carry a lot of tension that way. Or if you've ever had any surgery, it's almost like you have a tug in a sweater that you're wearing on one side, and that spider web, when you pull on that thread, you know how like that sweater just forms this like, sort of this lopsided, like not so attractive sweater type of a shape. Well, it's the same thing for our body, right? But we organize and we compensate for that. So that's a very difficult question, like a very complicated question, but I hope that I answered this. But with that respect, the myofascial system, I see that a lot in the cervical range of motion, as well as the lumbar to the hamstring, causing a lot of front side, we call that anterior kinetic chain, and imbalance of the posterior kinetic chain, because it influences pretty much every part of your body. Okay, I'm gonna have to move on, Neil. So if you want more of that, I did go over some myofascial things, but I will make sure that we either link it or make sure that we cover that in detail in one of our podcast episodes for sure, because that has so much relevance. My gosh, we have such smart people here. I love it. So anyway, we ended with downward dog. And again, I hope you guys are kind of seeing what I'm saying, right? Like slight bend in the knees, encouraging students to press their chest towards their thighs while lengthening their spine. It's the full body exercise. And downward dog really does reveal a lot of the myofascial restrictions as well. So now I'm going to go over the functional yoga medicine pillars. And this is going to provide you with like a complete system for you to just plug and play so that you guys can understand a little bit more how to apply all the things that you're learning. So number one, there's 7 pillars. Okay. And it provides you with a safe practice to teach your students so that they know exactly how to practice with proper foundation, alignment, and activation, because there's a lot of components, lots of layers and nuances. How do you keep it all together? Well, I gave you 7 pillars, just like there are 7 chakra systems. We have 7 pillars of safe practice. Pillar number 1 is foundation. But before I go, it's like, think of Surya Namaskar we just went through, right? You can use this system to drastically elevate the way you teach in a way where your students will take notice. Because beyond the asana practice in yoga, the functional yoga medicine pillars can provide a comprehensive and holistic framework for healing and personal growth. This addresses mental, physical, and emotional and spiritual aspects or faculties in your body, contributing to your overall well-being, because one doesn't function without the other. We're influenced by it all, and our physical body heavily by the myofascial tissue that Neil asked about. It influences how everything organizes in our body and move, right? So today we will just focus on the physical element of the functional yoga medicine pillars, but it really does flow into all the foundational elements, all the 7 pillars. It has a play in the mental, emotional, and spiritual aspects as well. But just for the physical today, foundation. This is all about establishing a solid base in pose, which improves stability, balance, and alignment. The focus is on the body parts that's in contact with the mat, mostly closed chain, to provide stability, which sets the tone for the skeletal kinetic chain. A secure foundation ensures proper alignment, balance, and support. For example, when I said in mountain pose, Tadasana, grounding through the feet and distributing weight evenly between left and the right, pushing the floor away. And in plank, it's pressing firmly through the palms and your toes to engage the shoulders. That's grounding foundations, right? Second is alignment. In any kinetic chain, you want to look up from the bottom kinetic chain up to the top. Proper alignment in poses reduces strain, prevents injury, and improves biomechanics. And proper positioning of body segments in relation to another, super important. Just like a good table, if you have one leg of the table kind of slanting out from the bottom out, it's a matter of time before the table collapses, right? Same thing with our body, except we're dynamic. Good alignment reduces strain, enhances biomechanics, and prevents injury. So for example, in upward dog, right, or Vahastasana, keep the arms in line with the ears. In standing forward fold, Uttanasana, align the hips over the ankles is key. Okay. Second, or the third pillar is core activation. Core activation or activation of deep core muscles. It's not just your front abdominals. It's transversus abdominis on the front side, pelvic floor on the bottom, diaphragm on the top, and the multifidi on. Core muscles are intimate with your breathing, the pranic force. A strong core supports the spine, enhances balance, and improves overall stability. Okay. In a half forward fold, Ardha Uttanasana, you engage the abdominal muscles. In plank, maintain a strong core to support the low back. Okay? So I want you to start to think of your specific examples. Now, don't you worry. Pillar number 4 is polarity. Okay? Balancing yet opposing forces or energies in the body promotes equilibrium. It's like yin to the yang, right? It reduces tension and fosters harmony. In chaturanga, balance of the strength in the arms with the relaxation of the neck. And then in upward facing dog is to combine chest opening with core engagement. So it's that polar opposite, but they're still working together in opposition. Okay? Pillar number 5 is prana, breath of life. It's the conscious ability to control and bring awareness to the breath. Proper breathing improves oxygenation, nervous system regulation, promotes relaxation, as well as improves circulation, as well as enhances overall health. So in downward facing dog, take deep and steady breaths. Coordinate the movement with breath throughout the sequence. So inhale, arms up, exhale, fold forward, inhale, lift halfway, exhale, jump back to plank, lower down into chaturanga, inhale to lift up, exhale, push back, downward dog. Those are the breaths. Everybody forgets to breathe. You're going to get acidic. Not a good situation. Pillar number 6 is all about balance, cultivating balance and harmony between left and the right sides of the body, front and back, as well as between opposing forces in the body. Maintaining stability and equilibrium enhances proprioception, strengthens the stabilizing muscles, and improves coordination. So in mountain pose, you want to distribute weight through the feet, both left and the right, front and back, forward, like towards the toes, arches of your feet to the heels, and then engage the core and shoulders to maintain stability in plank. Last but not least, directly to this concept of integration. For me, it's not enough to do all those things. Embodiment is an absolute necessity. This is the deep connection between the body and mind. It's almost like the muscle memory being made, neurological connection strengthened, tuning into the body's sensations, needs, and responses. This promotes physical self-awareness and enhances self-awareness, fosters mindfulness, and supports overall well-being. This is the essence of yogic practice. It's the ultimate integration. In each pose, encouraging students to notice the sensations, the thoughts, and in standing forward fold example, observe the stretch in the hamstrings and any feelings of release or anything that might come up for them in a pigeon pose, right? By applying these 7 pillars of functional yoga medicine to the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, which we go over in detail in the functional yoga medicine practitioner certification. But here, I want you to apply it physically, because sometimes we have to kind of break things down to make it simple, right? You can cultivate a deeper connection to yourself, your surrounding, your environment, promoting holistic healing and personal growth all at the same time. Okay, so now we're going to go move into a little bit more of the live demo to integrate this into our practice using boat pose as well as warrior 2 pose. So are you ready? So I'm going to scooch my chair to the side and I'm going to take you over onto the boat. So remember, boat is sort of an open chain. So I want you to understand that a lot of people, if they are here, this is really hard for them. So I usually tell them, place your hands in the back, draw the shoulders down and back, keep the knees bent. Pull the chest up, right? So let's talk about the foundation. Foundation might be the hand. It might be the top of your toes or feet flat. I don't care. But this may be the work into the boat at first, foundation. But the real boat, let's go into it. A lot of you, if you can keep your legs straight or knees bent, that doesn't matter. So think about the foundation. Foundation is balancing on your sits bones, right? Balancing there. And then the alignment is from the sits bone to your core, shoulders, and the neck. So the neck can't be forward. It has to be open in alignment, plumb line, ear, shoulder, hip, going down diagonally. And then from there, organizing from the sit bone, hip, knee, and ankle. So if it needs to be bent, this is the lever arm. We're distributing the force. So it's not long lever arm like this. It's a lot more harder for you to keep. But when you shorten the lever arm, you have a little bit more. When you provide yourself with more base of support, it's easier this way. That's what I want you to think about. So from here, going to boat, foundation, contact points of your body, in this case, sit bones with the mat. Alignment is aligning your shoulders, your ears, your hips, knees, and feet from the base, which is the sit bones, right? And then the core activation is core activation, not pushing out, but drawing things in, pulling the rib cages down. And then we create polarity, meaning we push up from away from the sit bones, so sit bones up to the crown of your head, that's one force. Sit bones to the toes, that's another force. That's opposing, right? In opposite directions. And then we find our breath. That's the fourth pillar. Breathe, and then we balance. Left and right shoulder, front and back body, as well as left and right sit bones, right? And then from there, we embody this strength. And I say, lock it into your last, final, optimal, the fullest expression of the pose, embody it, and then we release. So that's the 7 pillars of a functional yoga medicine using boat pose. Now we're going to move on to Warrior 2. So I'm going to start with the right side. Down at the kinetic chain, make sure that the feet are aligned, heels aligned, right toes are parallel to the side edge of the mat, left foot turned in about 45 degrees. Keep in mind, working down from the kinetic chain up, the right foot, which is forward towards the top of the mat, is externally rotated at the hip, okay? Because the foot is turned out parallel to the side edge of the mat. The kinetic chain starts at the foot. So the foot position determines the hip position. Right hip, hip open. Left hip, toes are in. Internally rotation, determined by the foot position. Kinetic chain up the chain. So then I have to now, foundation is there. Right foot parallel, left foot turned in, foundation. So now I work the alignment up from there. So the right knee needs to be in alignment with the right ankle and then the hip right over it. Same thing. Heel, left knee, left hip. Same thing. And then I have to find that balance, to find that core. Polarity comes from my navel down to my feet, rooting down, and then navel to the crown of the head, surging me up. And then another polarity is arms out to the side and bending into it. So you want to make a 90-degree bend into the right knee, right? However that looks. So from here, full expression is here. So I want to look at the right ankle, right knee, right over the ankle, not above and beyond, not me slanting forward. We want to pull back, be perpendicular to the pelvis, understanding the right hip is open, left hip is closed, but we're still defying gravity by going down, negative control, right? So foundation, alignment, polarity, sternum to my hands, pulling me away, navel to the crown, surging me up, navel to my feet, rooting me down. That's polarity. And then I find my breath and balance, gaze forward, front and back, left and right. I'm rooting down as much as I'm pushing down on my right foot, creating that even equilibrium. And then from here, I embody this pose, going to my last, deepest version of the pose and locking it in and coming out, right? And same thing we repeat on the other side. So we went through the functional yoga medicine, 2 different opposing poses, one for the floor, which is the boat, and then one for Warrior 2, Virabhadrasana 2, which is very different. I hope you guys are starting to see when you plug these concepts into your poses, this applies to every pose in your body. When you have it, anatomy becomes so second nature. So as long as you know how the fulcrum, lever points are, kinetic chains, how they operate, and then knowing what muscles are activating and not activating, understanding the structural differences, the whole acronym movement, right? We went over all of that. I know it's a lot I threw at you, but please know you can watch this over and over again. There's a lot of hidden concepts here. Write notes. I gave you ample amount of things in your workbook as well so that you can apply. Because by emphasizing these 7 pillars of the functional yoga medicine in the boat pose and Warrior 2, you can guide your students to a deeper understanding of their practice and foster a greater connection between their bodies and minds. And at the end of the day, that's what we do, or that's why we do what we do. Encouraging them to explore these principles in various poses and sequences, cultivating mindfulness and awareness, and overall well-being. Okay? So I really want you to understand. We discussed a lot. We discussed so much in terms of the anatomy. We discussed the foundations of anatomy and body mechanics that you can apply in your teaching right now so you can create an immediate result for your students, which included kinetic chain, lever systems, and dynamic movement that include kinetic chain, lever systems, synergistic movements, compensatory patterns, as well as functional yoga medicine. So I just want you to understand, I threw a lot at you, and I just want you to understand you will never master these concepts in one. But as long as you bring awareness to them little by little, keep these things, commit the pillars to your memory, I promise you, things are going to get so easy. You also learn Surya Namaskar assessment technique to have an eye for compensations, Warrior 2, and both in applying the functional yoga medicine pillars so that you can plug and play in your class, including an easy to implement assessment using Surya Namaskar that you already know to determine areas in which students might have limitations. In my opinion, that was worth so much for you as a yoga instructor and what to do about them, as well as 7 pillars of safe practice to teach your students so they know that they're practicing with proper intention, foundation, alignment, and activation in every single pose that they do. So I always emphasize application in everything that we do, right? So what are you supposed to do? So remember, there is homework. I want you to record yourself doing Surya Namaskar and see if you can identify any limitations in your own body based on what we discussed today, okay? And knowing how the poses should look in your body will help you to be able to identify limitations in other bodies. And I also want you to download Functional Yoga Medicine Pillars handout for more detailed information on each of the functional yoga medicine pillars and how to apply them. We also discussed 2 poses that weren't covered in this session to have you practice the poses while going through and identifying 7 functional yoga medicine pillars in each pose so you can have full integration and, more importantly, application in what you learned. I want to just encourage you also to catch up on video number 1 if you haven't yet. If you think this was really informative, number 1 really sets the tone for why. And we always want to hold on to our why, okay? Remember, what's to come in the next session, right, is going to be super exciting. But remember, people who come to your yoga class have all sorts of symptoms. Maybe they have diagnosed diseases like me, trauma, mental blocks, self-inflicted limitations that they desperately want to get over. And they're unknowingly coming to yoga classes because something draws them. But again, we're not eloquent enough to explain it sometimes. But we come to yoga for a heck of a lot more than fitness, you guys. Come on, right? So how do you help them elicit change beyond the yoga mat? That's a real question. That's how you set yourself apart. You can be the most amazing teacher ever, but if you aren't able to help them shift any limiting beliefs, perspectives, or identities they think they are, and they all have, all of which influence their actions, behaviors, and results, there's only so much impact you can make in your clients' lives in teaching the yoga class. Knowing anatomy principles is critical for keeping your students safe and promoting the benefits of yoga that they're looking for. But if you're looking to create more opportunities for yourself, take your impact and value to a whole new level, being able to integrate the functional medicine and coaching practices with yoga teacher training or yoga teaching, allowing you to become a holistic yoga practitioner who utilizes the integrative application by showing them the way that not only can allow students to live the solution, but also be able to address any of the symptoms or condition at the root cause. Because I believe yoga can heal just about everything. It's the one thing that allowed me to go from this victim mindset of being kidney failure and being at the end of my ropes when all the medical system failed me, to really finding who I really am. And I think I could have gone both ways. I could have fell straight to this imposter syndrome. Who am I? I'm the one with kidney failure. Who am I? Right? But it's the one thing that I did is I used my adversity, the obstacles and tribulations, and I used that as an opportunity to seek greater truth and really tap into my own power within. And I believe the yoga practice has the power to do that. And when you can do this, integrate an integrative application in all that you do, you can eliminate all your competition completely and open the doors to endless opportunities. And I guarantee you that when you create true and lasting value with your students, I know this for a fact, financial success is inevitable. And I'll show you exactly what that looks like. You don't want to miss it. And that's going to take place this Thursday, August 24th at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And at this time, we've come to a close. I'm not sure if I got all. I can keep this. Okay. Mo had, you guys, oh, I love you guys. So many great comments. Yes, Jim, there was a lot of things discussed on teaching mixed classes that I give you real life examples of it. I hope you guys really tap into the power of yoga. I think gone are the days where we can be just doing what we were taught, doing what everybody else does, because that's how it's always been done. I think it's time for us to zig when others are zagging. And I know that if you're here watching me, that's just who you are. And just, it's time to have clarity. Remember, I talked about this. It's all about clarity and mustering up enough courage, and then trying getting up over and over again through your tribulations and your obstacles, overcoming it in your mind so that you can build true confidence in your own ability to build lasting compassion toward yourself. And we're all here as a collective experience. We're doing this together, you guys. Join me. Change the world. This can change the world. And I believe this is the future of healthcare. It's self-empowered healing, and that's through yoga. And that's what we're here to spread. The mission is so big. I hope you guys can get behind it. And I can't wait to see you on Thursday. Thank you so much. Love it, Leon. Thank you, Marina. Thank you, Jim. Everybody, love you. I'll see you guys soon. Bye. Thank you for listening to the Mind Your Health podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, we would so much love it and appreciate it if you share it with someone who could benefit as well as to subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else where podcasts are found. And leave us a review. We would be so grateful, and it helps us to reach more people just like you, so you can become more empowered to enjoy longevity and health. You can follow me on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at Dr. Connie Chung. And of course, you can subscribe to this podcast for a new episode every single week.